So there are different events that we do throughout the year that we know that we're going to do, just to make sure we're seen in the community, because I always tell them you got to give back in the community for the community to support you. So as long as we're working in the community knows we're there and they're going to support us.
So what kind of difference do you feel Men of Distinction has made in the school system and in the community at large?
Here at Southern Middle School, I think it makes a difference because these young men know they have a safe haven. They can come to me or Justin Campbell, who serves as our co-advisor, and they can share the innermost feelings of what's going on inside the building or personal issues with us. And we build that relationship with them so they can come talk to us about anything. I think that being that we build that bond with them, that they know that somebody is there for them and supports them and that we have their back. They'll come to us and complain about the simplest little thing to the major little thing just to get it off of their chest. And that's a good thing because they might be angry with the teacher and they might sit in their classroom and become insubordinate, but before they get insubordinate, they'll come to me or Mr. Campbell and talk to us about what's going on in their classroom, so we can kind of step in and say, hey, Miss such and such or Mr. such and such, what happened today? And they'll tell us, and we'll pull the student back in and say, okay, what did you do? So we tried to make them take responsibility for what they're doing that's wrong, and it's not always the teacher that's wrong, but we want the kids to understand that you have to take responsibility for something that you did to get to that point. So I think that's what the biggest thing that happens here at the school. In the community, we are very active in different aspects. We serve as the host for the Delta Sigma Theta's Martin Luther King banquet every year. They ask us to come. We we've been invited by the Kiwanis Club to come down and speak to them for the last couple of years. So our officers go down there and speak to the Kiwanis Club. We do Special Olympics at the high school every year. So there are different events that we do throughout the year that we know that we're going to do, just to make sure we're seen in the community, because I always tell them you got to give back in the community for the community to support you. So as long as we're working in the community knows we're there and they're going to support us.
So what have been some of the challenges?
The challenges have been those who join the group just for the fun aspect of it, but don't want to put in the work of it, because you have to turn that child around. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges is that we have to understand that even though we work with these young men, we only work with them in the school setting, because in the summer they're in their respective homes. But we have to reteach in August what we finished teaching in May or June, because a child is going to follow where they're around their environment. So we have to bring them back in the fold. So that's the biggest challenge at the beginning of the school year, to get them back on task and let them know, hey, you're back in the building. This is what you got to do. Let's get focused. The biggest challenge to me is that having to deal with when you've done your part on our end over here, and then we send them back out, we're fighting the streets versus what we're trying to teach you here. And the saddest part about it is that sometimes the streets win out. So when the streets win out, it makes me just fight harder for over here to get them together to understand that it's not about the streets.
What are some of the, or at least one of the maybe tragic stories or situations where you gave it your best, but you can't say for sure that you really won in the end when it comes to a particular kid?
I have to say, one of the members of Men of Distinction, who was involved in the shooting, and it kind of blew my mind, because the young man had the potential to be successful but chose the wrong path. And the one that I'm thinking about did not even take place here in Person County. This young man had actually moved to Ohio. And very intelligent young man, didn't put forth all of his effort all the time, but when he did, he was an honor student, So he never went to Person High School. His family moved to Ohio. And when he moved to Ohio, he got involved in gang activity. And a couple of years ago, I got a message that he was killed on the streets. So it's things like that hurts the most. Because I always tell men the distinction that I'm not here to bury you. I'm here to educate you. So, the streets are not where you need to be. We need to focus on education so that you can be successful.
Now, that said, you've also seen, I'm sure, some individuals who after you, they looked like they were going the wrong way, but kind of made that curve back to what you might have had taught them years earlier. Tell me about some of those experiences.
That's been a whole lot. And I say that because I'm thinking about the class of 2020. These young men of distinction that I saw graduate this year. Some of them, I can sit back and say, wow, what happened in the aspect of you, now you're going off to college, you're going off to the military, when I sat here in Southern and I was drilling in you, and you were like, okay, I got you, but you just keep on trucking on. But when they come back and they say, Mr. Poole, you said when I was in middle school, and I'm sitting there going, you remember? Yes, sir, I remember. So it lets me know that we did it, and I mean, everybody's not going to take heed at first, but if a child comes back to me and says, Mr. Poole, I remember when you told me ... then I feel as though we succeeded, because that child is going on to be successful because it was something that we said or something we did or someplace we took them that made a difference. So that's the best part about it.
Describe that last part, someplace you took them. What are some of the things that you have exposed them to outside of Person County?
Well, every year, of course, we go to North Carolina A&T. We take them to A&T and they go up there for a day where they go to a football game, they tour the campus, and they love it. They get to see what's going on in college life. They actually go to a small college fair where they can walk around the different tables and talk to different people from different majors. And a lot of them come back and say, that's interesting. We traveled to Washington, D.C., and we got to go into the African American Museum for History. We toured all the monuments, and they toured Howard University while they were in D.C. We go to Atlanta, where they've toured Morehouse College, Clark Atlanta University. They go to the King home site. They go to the Ebenezer Church where Dr. King used to pastor. And I think that is one of the most humbling experiences every time I've taken them inside of that church. When they walk in and they hear Dr. King's voice and they realize that, a lot of people think that Dr. King is a myth because, they don't see everything that he did, but when they hear his voice inside that church, they say, Mr. Poole, is that him? And I say, yes. And they'll sit there and they're so humble that they're listening to every word that he's saying. And when you ask them, what did he say? They can come out and tell you exactly what he said. So, those things like that make a difference, because we have to realize that coming from a small rural town, a lot of our kids do not get the chance to go outside of Person County. Some kids think that dining out is going to McDonald's or Cookout, while when we're out of state, we go to a different restaurant. One time in Atlanta, we went to Gladys Knight's Chicken and Waffles, and they had a ball. We go to Hard Rock, so to let them know that there is life outside of Person County. If you could see their faces coming into Atlanta on that bus when they wake up in the morning time and they start looking at all these skyscrapers and all these busy cities, they're in amazement. Just for the simple fact of, wow, this is Atlanta. So those things do make a difference in a child's life.